Well, good morning, everybody, from here in Las Vegas. The national championship game Monday night, January 19th at Hard Rock, 7:30, Miami, Indiana. Before I get started, I need to give two shout-outs, if I may. First one I got to thank is Barstool Sports for helping me get to this point, to the Fiesta Bowl and then to the national championship game. It has been nothing short of sensational. I want to thank Austin. I want to thank Tate, who's going to be who's documented everything on this so far, and will do so again Monday night. And Caitlin for getting everything done, going to travel arrangements, etc. Thank you all for that. Second shout out I want to say is to Mike Brodsky, the senior VP for the sports book at Caesars. Treated my brother-in-law to a dinner on Tuesday night here. They've been nothing short of first class here. He treated us so well. I mean, it has been nothing short of outstanding. To those guys, I say thank you immensely. I cannot thank you guys enough. But anyway, we're joined this week, final preseason game day of the year. Sammy Jacobs from Hoosier Huddle and Peter Ariz from CanesInsight. We'll get started. Sammy, I want to start with you. I mean, Sammy, the thing I read about you is you're an Indiana grad, owner of Hoosier Huddle since 2013. Tell us a little more about what you do, and you're also a statistician for the IU team as well.
I'll start with the website, HoosierHuddle.com. I'm an IU grad, went there, graduated in 2009, followed a lot of the players from my high school out there, fell in love with Bloomington, loved the school, and I love football over basketball, which is why I started the site, was because I wanted the football team covered how I wanted it covered as a fan. So we've been doing it since 2013. Moved back to Indy with my wife in 2014. Been credentialed at games, basically every game since then. And then kind of bad lucked my way into being the statistician for the radio broadcast, the old statistician. He would, when crossover season happened, I'd fill in for him, but unfortunately he passed away in 2019. So I took over full-time after that. But I'm in the radio booth for all the games, which is kind of cool because there's no cheering in the press box, but in the radio booth you kind of have I can't loudly cheer so I don't end up on YouTube and all that stuff. But it is like sitting with the two biggest IU fans that you could find and breaking down the game. So we have game breakdowns, game stories with players that we've interviewed and coaches that we've interviewed over the week. We have our own podcast. We do a live chat every week or so to engage with our fan base too. So, but man, it's been a hell of a ride the last 2 years.
Yes, absolutely. Pete, we know you, Pete. You know me, I know you.
How we doing, Danny? I appreciate the opportunity, man. We've been trying to do this for a while. Excited to connect under these circumstances, man. This is obviously a huge moment we've all been waiting for. Sammy, I'm excited to get to talk Hoosiers with you now. We're also going to connect after this as well for another podcast. But Danny, man, congratulations to you and the platform that you've got, man. It's been awesome to see. We love you were standing strong in the Ole Miss section last game. So that was great. That was great to see you holding strong there and being a great representative of the Canes fan base. So let's get into the game, man. This is going to be obviously the roles are a bit flipped here, right? Indiana the last couple of years have been looked at as the underdogs, and now the Canes coming into this one as about an 8-point underdog here. So what are we thinking about that, guys?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be. Hey, listen, Indiana's a wagon. They're a total wagon. Nobody's denying that. It's going to take a great effort to beat a great team like IU. Sammy, let's get into the game. Mendoza last week, 17-20, 177, 5 touchdown passes, and no interceptions. Tell us about the ride this guy has been on. And Pete, you and I know about Mendoza being from Miami, but tell our audience about Fernando Mendoza.
Oh man, he's such a geek, and I say that in the most lovingly way. His first interview with IU, he's talking about Lego Star Wars and all that stuff. And you're like, okay, who is this guy? And you go back and watch the tape and you're like, okay, he's pretty good. And you get him with Kurt Signetti and Coach Whitmer is the quarterback coach at IU, and they fixed his happy feet. And he's just been on a heater in the college football playoff. He obviously won the Heisman, had a great season. I know people complained about the numbers he put up. He didn't play in like the second halves of like 6 games. And when he did, they were handing the ball off because they were up 63-10 against Illinois. So he's been unbelievable. His work ethic is unbelievable. He's like the happy version of Kirk Signetti. He's always breaking down film. He's, loves his teammates. This group, I've never seen a group gel like this either, and I think he's a big part of that. But in the college football playoff, he has 8 touchdown passes and 5 incompletions in 2 games, which, he's only thrown, 36 passes. He's 14-16 against Bama, 17-20 against Oregon. But he is such good ball placement that you look at some of those back shoulder throws, especially the Eliza Surratt, the defender could not have played it any better. And it's still a completion, or there was pass interference and the ball was still caught. He's really connected with Charlie Becker, who's his roommate. Becker, we thought, would play. He was the no-doubter breakout player of the year. Now, I didn't really get his shot until about the Maryland game when Surratt went down with a hamstring injury. But he played 13 games on special teams as a freshman, and you don't burn that red shirt on a freshman if you don't trust him. And he's a special player. He could take the top off of the defense. He's 6'4". He could catch the ball. And he's kind of Wally pipped EJ Williams there a little bit when EJ went down. So, Mendoza, his ball placement, his ability just to read the defenses has been elite this year and all year.
P, you want to ask Sam a question?
Yeah, well, Sam, what were the expectations for Mendoza heading into the year, man? Because I obviously, as Danny said, we are aware of Mendoza. I went to the same high school as Mendoza, older than him, but I, followed him from a distance. And my co-host and I had always said, hey, this guy's better than people realize, even when he was over at Cal. I can't imagine the expectations were Heisman, but what was the idea coming into this season of what Mendoza could be?
He had to replace Curtis Rourke, who had a pretty good year for IU last year too. Now, you had higher expectations a little bit for Fernando because he's playing on 2 legs. Rourke played last year with 1 thumb. He broke his thumb on his throwing hand, and he tore his ACL in fall camp. So you're like, okay, if he's healthy, he should be able to move better. And I think when it started ratcheting up, the expectations was at Pro Day. And one of the scouts told another writer, man, Fernando's really damn good. And so when you have guys like that say, man, he's really damn good, your imagination starts to go. And then, you've seen the arm talent at Cal. You guys will know it better than me, but it seems like COVID really derailed his high school recruiting. Mm-hmm. And even to commit to Yale, that means you have a good head on your shoulders at minimum. And he's 6'5", 225, and he can run better than people think. Now, he looks like a baby giraffe running out there sometimes, but he's faster and more nimble than people think. He knows when to run. And the expectations, I think ESPN put it out in the preseason that there was like a 12% chance of him being the first number 1 pick, which I thought was absurd because so many things have to happen to become the number 1 pick, but 12% is ridiculous. I said, if he's the number 1 pick, IU's, he's going to win the Heisman. IU's going to be number 1, and half jokingly too, and they'll play for a national championship. But he's been, the expectations just have skyrocketed with him.
Oh, he's just absolutely amazing. We know how good Mendoza is. But what I was saying, what I'm impressed with, Sam? I'm looking at all the other stuff, the running game that doesn't get a lot of attention, but their big threat play. I've noticed, you mentioned Becker. It seems to me he's Mendoza's favorite target. What are your thoughts on that?
Surratt's his favorite target. Surratt's like the go-to guy. If you've watched the Journey on the Big Ten Network, they had Elijah Surratt sound. His nickname's Waffle House because he's always open. Even when he's not open, he's open. And his dad, when he was at JMU, said, "Oh, man, they always throw the ball to Elijah on third down." So it's just third down and Elijah, and he leads I think he led the Big Ten in third down touchdowns this year. That's who. I think that's his favorite. He's comfortable throwing to all three guys: Omar, Charlie, but Charlie's his roommate too, and so there's kind of a mental connection there. And his quarterback rating while throwing at Charlie is through the roof. I think it was like 158.7 thrown to him, which led the country. So that the rapport he has with his receivers is really good. But I would say Elijah's the guy he likes to get the ball to the most.
Yeah, I noticed that 75 2 TDs last week, 473 on the offense. They were 11 for 14 on third downs. That, to me, blew my mind. And they ran only 60 plays. 60 plays. That's just unbelievable.
Yeah, that's what happens when you have a pick six. I think they had drives start inside the 5. They had another one inside the 20. You had another one from the block punt that was inside the 10. So it doesn't take that many plays to score from that far in. But yeah, they're super efficient on third down last week.
Oh yeah, P, you want to add something to that? If you may?
Yeah, I'm curious, Sammy, as an IU fan. I mean, from your perspective, what would be? There was very few times that this happened this year, but Ohio State, we know the sort of talent that they had on their defense. Iowa, I think, would be maybe the other example where the offense wasn't as prolific as other times during the season. What would you say in those games was the key to kind of get the offense out of the rhythm that they had pretty much been in the rest of the year?
It's to win the battle up front. We've seen that the last 2 years when IU's gone against elite defensive lines with Ohio State and Notre Dame in 2024. Now, IU's offensive line is better than they were in 2024, but Iowa made them uncomfortable and kind of sped them up and got them out of their game. I think that mentality has changed from, hey, we're just going to turtle up if we don't think we can win up front, to, even against Ohio State, although that was a 13-10 game, they took shots to Charlie Becker and Elijah Surratt downfield. And I mean, the first play of that game, Mendoza gets the wind knocked out of him, and you're thinking, oh my God, our quarterback just died because Caden Curry blasted him. But to his credit, he came back and had a heck of a game. That's where you could throw IU off their game, is if you start getting pressure on Mendoza and getting them into those third and longs, because one of the reasons they are so efficient on third down, I think they're converting close to 60% on the year, is because they win on first and second down and get into those. They'll take what you give them, and get into those, 2nd and 5, 3rd and 2, and then they lean on the run game and short passing game to convert those.
Yeah. Another thing you got to remember also, people don't talk about their defense. Aiden Fisher had 9 tackles, 5 solo, 1.5 tackles for loss. Of course, Pons had the pick 6 on the first play of the game. Isaiah Jones had 6 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack. But the one that really stood out to me was Daniel, if I butcher his name, please forgive me, Ndukwe, 3 tackles, 3 solo, 2 sacks, and 2 tackles for loss. They allowed 378 yards, but the one that really stuck out to me, Sammy, was the 93 yards rushing that they allowed to Oregon. They had 8 for 13 on third downs, 66 total plays, and 20 first downs. Tell our audience how good this defense is. We saw it against Bama and Oregon, but tell our audience what may not know during the season.
Yeah, this defense is really good, and it's hard to describe. I think Dan Lanning described it as an illusion defense. They like to disguise pressure and simulate pressure in different spots. There are a couple guys on on Twitter and YouTube who do a better job of me than breaking it down. But their sum is greater than their parts. And so Daniel Ndukwe is the third string defensive end. They lost Kellen Wyatt mid-year. Stephen Daly came in and filled in and had 18 tackles for a loss. He got hurt, and unfortunate after the game, he's giving high fives to fans and gets like this far off the ground and tears his knee up. But Ndukwe he's a sophomore, a true sophomore. He also blocked a punt and forced a fumble that game. And that's the mentality of this defense is Brian Haynes gives each guy a job description and they do their job. Nobody's trying to make the hero play or anything like that. They're very, very good at reading it. They're a mature team. A lot of these guys like Fisher, D'Angelo Pons, Tyreek Tucker, they've been in a Brian Haynes defense for a while. You guys, you have a blanking on the name right now, but your defensive coordinator also worked under Cignetti at
Yes,
JMU.
that would be Corey Heatherman.
Yeah, Heatherman, he was spoken of very highly, and they run similar defenses. But Brian Haynes is kind of like that mad scientist where he's watching film saying, hey, what happens if I move this linebacker over here? Or if I move my defensive lineman over there? IU's got speed on the defensive line. I know everybody's making a big deal about how big your guys' offensive line is, which we've heard all year. Well, Illinois got 50 pounds on you on average, and Oregon and Ohio State. But Indiana uses, stunts. They shoot gaps, which the tight splits of your offensive line could help negate. But their sum is greater than their parts.
Yeah. Before I get to you, Pete, they remind me, remember the Belichick Patriots back in the day? They had a book, each book for each opponent, how to prepare for each opponent. A scout said this about Indiana. Sammy, correct me if I'm wrong here. This scout said, Indiana doesn't like to take away what you do well. They like to find what you're weakest at and make you play that way for 4 quarters. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, it's like that. They'll take away what you do best to try and make you play the way that they want to play. But it's different for each team. So like the Patriots, Cignetti watches unbelievable amount of film to where their game plan changes game to game. It's not like, hey, we have our game plan, we're not going to change it, and if we could beat you with it, we're going to beat you with it. Now, Indiana does it that kind of way where they'll scheme up how to beat a particular team's strength.
Yeah. Pete, you want to ask the next question? Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's more so of a comment, but you brought it up, Sammy. That to me, that's that matchup between Miami's offensive line and the front 7 of Indiana is the one to watch, because Miami is, as Miami fans sometimes at a certain point got frustrated this year, saying, hey, it seems like the offense is very simple. It seems like they're running up the middle every play. And that's because, as we're seeing now in the playoffs, they have the guys up front that they can kind of lean on other teams and wear you down at a certain point of the game. So that battle between the front 7, which they do a lot of different things where they're showing blitz and dropping defensive linemen and really only rushing 3 and dropping everyone else, right? Maybe spying someone, that sort of battle, because Miami, they want to go hat to hat and line it up and try to be physical. Indiana, they beat you with these mind games. So to me, that is going to be the key here. Yeah,
and you're exactly right. And Indiana tries to confuse you. Not that they're not physical, because Indiana's a very physical team. But they'll try and simulate pressure. And somebody showed it very well on YouTube against Alabama, where there were 3 offensive linemen taking 1 defensive lineman, which freed up on the backside a safety and a linebacker, where they're only showing 4 guys up at the line of scrimmage. But they simulate that pressure well to where they make you make a choice, and Alabama made the wrong choices more times than not. So it'll be a very fun matchup. like it has been in the Big Ten for a million years. It all starts and ends up front. And if you could stop the run or run the ball, I think that's the team who's going to win on Monday night.
Yeah. Somebody from Luca Falsetto says, Pete, our weakness on defense feels like quick passes. We saw a guy against Ole Miss, but especially Louisville and SMU. Now, Sammy, to your point, either one you could take this. Is this something IU does since we haven't seen it much all year?
Yeah, they have the ability to do those quick passes, especially out to Omar Cooper, Riley Nowakowski in the tight end screen game. Don't let him fool you. He's a better athlete than it shows. Roman Hemby in the passing game, we really haven't seen him in the screen game, but he has over 1,000 career receiving yards as well. So he could be out there. IU will take what you give them, whether that's a 7-yard out, a slant route, a deep pass. They are very good at adjusting to what the defense gives them.
Absolutely. And Pete, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, to your point, Danny, and to Luca Falsetto's comment, I think what has given Miami trouble this year is when you don't let the pass rushers tee off on the quarterback. And even, we saw last week, even as Ole Miss was getting down the field a little bit more, Trinidad Chambliss gets the ball out quickly, yes, right? And that neutralizes those pass rushers. So I think the RPO, that's been a very important part of Indiana and their success this year as well. So I think the RPO can also be something that neutralizes those pass rushers. But yes, which we said from the beginning, Sammy, you said it right at the beginning. You need, for Miami to win this game, you need Bain and Mesidor to be the guys that they've been labeled. And a lot of that is not just the pass game, but it's stopping the run, because I think that's been such a big part of Indiana's success, is the balance offensively, right? Hemby averaging 5 yards a carry. Mendoza has the ability to run as well, as you've mentioned. So if you can, on the other flip side, we talk about Miami's weakness, but I think on the other side of it too, if Miami can slow down the run game and make them a little bit more one-dimensional, I think it gives you a way better opportunity to win the game.
Yep, agreed.
Question for you, gentlemen. The following is this. Sammy, how is Indiana preparing to deal with Carson Beck and that Miami offense? What is the most intriguing one-on-one matchup we will see in this game? And how will how will our receiving corps, Pete, deal with the IU corners, Pond, Sharp, and Boykin?
Are we starting with me?
Yeah, you take it, Sammy.
So okay, go to you, Pete.
I think the headline matchup to watch is Malachi Tony against D'Angelo Ponce. Now, I don't know if IU will stick him on there, but they have in the past. They did it with Jeremiah Smith. They did it with the kid from Alabama, Ryan Williams, and Jeremy Bernard. When they have to, they'll tailor their defense to where Ponce is. Even though they play a lot of zone, they'll put Ponce on the side of the field, that one of those on. But that's the headliner, sexy matchup to watch. The non-sexy football matchup to watch is probably Tyreek Tucker against your guys' center and the interior of the line. He is built like a fire hydrant. He does. If you saw him walking down the street, he does not. He just looks like a big dude who may have played college football, but he's an all Big Ten player. His technique is phenomenal, and he gets the leverage he gets is really good, and he kind of surprises people where he will occupy 2 or 3 blockers and allow the rest of the defense to make plays.
Yeah.
And Danny, you talked about you were asking me about the matchup between Miami's receivers.
That's TJ, Keelan, and Malachi.
Yeah, and I think, as Sammy said, that's going to be the interesting thing to me. Does Indiana move pawns with Malachi Tony? Because you have CJ Daniels, who has made a ton of big catches for Miami this year. His numbers may not be the most eye-popping, but you saw last week on third down to move the chains and that on that game-winning drive.
Yeah.
What he does, he's a guy who can. Obviously, we saw against Notre Dame make spectacular catches. I'm more interested in the flip side of it, Danny. It's Miami's secondary against
Yes.
IU's receivers, because Miami's secondary is banged up here. I think OJ Frederick should be good to go, but Damari Brown, he's been banged up as well. We saw a lot of the freshman Jabari Antoine last week against Ole Miss. Out of nowhere, he had to play, and we understand that there is a lot of depth on the other side there for Indiana. So that's the matchup that I think is going to be one that really flips this game.
Remember, we're not going to have Lucas in the first half.
Right, Xavier. Right, I should have mentioned that as well. That's the one where you understand. Hey, they're a little bit banged up. We saw OJ Frederick play last game and then come out pretty early. And again, the hope is that you have him back. Damari Brown hasn't played. He's been banged up as well. So you need to get one of those guys as close to 100%, and you're not going to have Xavier Lucas. So you expect them to have to play some of the freshmen as well.
Pete, to you, is there an appeal for X going on right now?
From my understanding, that has been denied. So it looks like we will be we're moving on without him in the first half here, and that's just what they got to deal with now, man.
Hey, Sammy, to you.
It's a terrible. First of all, it's a terrible rule. I'm not rooting for
I
any.
hate that rule. I hate that rule.
I understand it. It needs to be enforced like a basketball flagrant foul. It's unfortunate that that young man will miss the first half. But yeah, that was one of my big questions coming on with you guys, was how banged up is Miami secondary in coming into this? Because Indiana has 3 really good receivers. EJ Williams is the 4th guy in there, and then the rotation is not huge, but they do throw a Jonathan Brady in there, who's their punt returner, who's been really good this year. Played with Mendoza at Cal. They'll use their tight ends in the pass game too with Riley Nowakowski. But yeah, the health, if you're banged up in the secondary, IU could take advantage of it there. How
is Indiana preparing to deal with a physical attacking Miami D, Sammy? Maybe they tackle Smith and Benson.
Carter Smith won Big Ten Offensive Lineman of the Year, which means you're among the top 5, offensive linemen in college football. He's been really good. Khalil Benson has struggled. I know people went back to the first Oregon game. He was hurt. He really could not move. He struggles with speed rushers, but is pretty good against power rushers. He's a strong guy. He's not as bad as everybody says he is. And they've kind of moved a freshman, Adamole Johnny, to that position as well. And they've alternated starts, but they'll play everybody. I mean, heck, against Alabama, they put Carter Smith in as an H-back and a blocking back, and put Zem Mikulski in at tackle as well. So they're going to use a lot of guys. They'll use Riley Nowakowski, who loves to hit people in the blocking game as well. And the running backs are going to have to step up and block too. Kalon Black, I know he's a little bit smaller of a guy than a defensive lineman, but he's not afraid to stick his hat in there as well. Hemby's a little smaller than him, and you'd like not to have Roman Hemby go up against an edge rusher, but he's a capable blocker. If you don't block against teams, you're not going to play in Cignetti's offense. So they're going to use multiple people, maybe an extra offensive lineman in there, and just go heavy. They've showed that, and I don't think they'll move Carter Smith to that H-back position just because you don't want to take your best player off the edge. But they're definitely guys that they've built up trust to put in there and get the job done.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, Pete, you want to ask the next question, then I'll get to mine.
Yeah, just in general, Sammy, the hype in Hoosier Nation right now, and the expectation. Obviously, we've heard so much about it being a home game for Miami. But the ticket situation being what it is, like, I'm curious how that kind of the expectations for how they're going to travel. Because we saw what it looked like in Atlanta. It was crazy.
I mean, it was harder to tell at the Rose Bowl because you had Alabama there. But when, if you judge by noises, at least 80% IU fans at the Rose Bowl. And it's one of these things that it hasn't happened in such a long time that people are willing to shell out the big money. for it. Atlanta had to be like 90% IU fans. It was unbelievable on that. My expectations, it sounds like each team got 20,000 tickets. And then what is there, another 25 in the middle that went to whomever. I would expect a 50-50 crowd, to be honest with you. I think a lot of IU people are going to go down. They filled their allotment. You've got people who are willing to spend down. Florida also has a lot of IU alumni down there as well. The advantage that Miami has on it, and I would say this would be the more of the advantage anyway, even if the crowd was 70-30 or 60-40, is that Miami gets to practice at their facilities and treat it like a home game. They sleep in whatever regular hotel that they sleep in for home games. They don't have to travel that far after being on the road for 3 weeks. That's where I think the advantage comes in. Now, IU didn't have to travel far to Atlanta, and Miami's not that terrible of a trip from Indianapolis. But, it's not like Oregon had to go, Eugene to Miami, back to Eugene to Atlanta. So we'll see. I expected 50-50. I wouldn't be surprised if there were more Miami fans. I also wouldn't be surprised if there were slightly more IU fans.
Yeah, I think so too. And by the way, Lucas, I will give you a crowd report when I'm at the stadium Monday night. Just a little side note on it. Now, I'll let this question to Pete first and then to Sammy second. What is the single most important factor for Miami to win this game? Is it controlling the line of scrimmage, winning the turnover battle, or is it something else entirely? Pete, I'll start with you first, and I'll go to Sammy regarding Indiana.
Yeah, I think it's probably cliche, but it is winning the battle in the trenches. That's how Miami has gotten to this point. I think that if you don't do that, because there is the size advantage, and Indiana has dealt with it already at times this year, but Miami, this is their bread and butter. I don't know that there's any other way for them to win this game. And look, I think there's a chance. I think there's a good chance that it happens, right? When I say it's their only way to win the game, I'm not saying that it's out of the realm of possibility of happening, but I don't see Miami winning this game in a shootout, for example, right? So like I haven't seen Miami we've seen Indiana put up 50, 60 points multiple times this year. That hasn't been what Miami does. So I think 100% Danny controlling the trenches, and you can't beat yourself if you're Miami. The penalties came back into play last week against Ole Miss and probably made things, and the dropped interceptions made things closer than maybe it could have been.
Yeah, you can't do that against this IU team. When you have a chance to get a pick, you have got to take advantage, and you cannot be behind the six against this Indiana team because that defense will tee off on you. Sammy, I'll ask the same question of you. What for Indiana from an Indiana perspective?
Yeah, I think the team who makes the fewest mistakes is going to win this game. I know that's stupid, like saying the team with the most points is going to win. But it is Indiana does not make very many mistakes. Miami's 80th in penalties. They average 7 penalties per game. Getting behind the sticks, just setting yourself up for success is important. You saw how quickly games could get out of hand when you turn the ball over. Even in the Alabama game, they panicked because IU went down on a 16-play, 70-yard drive for a field goal and went for it on a fourth down that got so many memes on social media that they didn't want to give IU the ball back deep in their own territory because they didn't think that it could stop them. So it's who deals with the pressure, like that kind of pressure, not the pressure of the spotlight. It's the pressure that each team will put onto each other because both of them are going to want to control the clock. They're both, I think, in the top 6 or top 10 of time of possession. And IU's played a lot more games like that against teams in the top 50 of time of possession. But those are the things that sneak into your head. Who takes that unnecessary timeout in the second half? Who jumps off sides? Who has that big pass interference penalty or the big holding penalty that puts you down? And then, turnovers. Fernando's been excellent throwing the ball this postseason. And even when he has thrown picks in big games, he threw one against Oregon for a pick 6. He threw one against Iowa, and he threw one at Penn State. he's rebounded so well. And I forgot to mention that when we were talking about him.
Please.
But his rebound from those low points is unbelievable. And so it's whoever to steal a page out of Bob Knight's book, it's whoever makes the fewest mistakes is going to win.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we can agree on that, right, Pete?
Yes, sir.
I'll get you out. I'll let you out predictions. I'll get you out of here on this. I'll start with Sammy first this time. Do you have a gut feeling how this one will shake out, and what's your reasoning for that?
I think it's going to be a lot closer. I've been on a couple podcasts. We just recorded our own. I think the first one I said 24-21 IU, and then the second one I said 27-24. I don't know how this game is going to play out early. In a lot of these big national title games, there's a lot of like feeling each other out for a little bit. So that could affect the score, but I do think, look, Miami played their best game of the season against Ohio State, right? And then they kind of played an in-between game against Ole Miss. Which Miami team do you get? And also, it just seems IU's on one of these historic runs, and they just have been on a burner all year. So you have a team who's been on a burner all year versus a team who's probably peaking at the right time. So I think it's going to be close, and IU just doesn't make the mistakes that Miami makes, and it comes down to, maybe a last-second field goal or something like that. Pete?
Yeah, I have the same score, 27-24, as Sammy did. I have it in Miami's favor there. We talked about the trenches, and look, I understand that IU has heard this before. They've played some great teams up front in Ohio State, in Oregon. I just think Miami has. Personally, I'm taking that head-to-head game, Miami, Ohio State, Indiana, Ohio State, and how they played out. And I thought Miami really could have won that game by more than 10 points, right? Ohio State did a good job of fighting back in that game. But that was really like a 13-17 point win for Miami. And I like the matchup because at the end of the day, I think Miami and Indiana are trying to win in similar ways. But I trust Miami's athletes here. And maybe I'm underestimating Kurt Signetti and IU as everyone has done really the last 2 years. And hopefully for Miami, that's not the case. But that's why I got the Canes 27-24. Going to be a great game, man. Really excited.
Before I'll give mine, Luca has a comment here. Miami, we feel like the best version of team that IU look weakest against Iowa, Penn State, and Ohio State. Any want to take that? Any one of you want to take that one?
Yeah, I'll take that one.
Go for it, Sammy.
Go for it, Sammy.
Yeah, I mean that's the recipe for Miami is follow what Penn State and Ohio State did. And Ohio State, I don't think IU looked weak against Ohio State. I just think it was a great game between two great teams. Yeah. And all those things. You had a missed field goal. There were some opportunities that IU and Ohio State missed in that game. IU had to throw out their defensive game plan because Pons got hurt late in the week and missed that game. Penn State, if you watch the Penn State game, I thought that game turned on when Aiden Fisher picked off that pass to start the third quarter and they settled for a field goal. And you kind of let them off the hook. They had the temporary press box, so we got to interact with the fans a lot at halftime. They were like, man, one more touchdown, we're out of here. It's a nice day. Let's go tailgate in the fields, to where if that's 24-7 instead of 20-7, it maybe goes differently. But Iowa controlled the game. They got heat on Mendoza. They did make the early mistake. They threw an interception on their second play of the game, which led to an IU touchdown. And then IU they made the plays when they needed to make. And it's a different – Charlie Becker didn't really play in that game against Iowa. It's really – that was their first time going on the road against a really good defense and answering all those questions that they had from last year, going against really good defenses and really good teams on the road. So I think they've answered the bell. But, yeah, that's – if you want the secret sauce or the formula to beat IU – those are the three games I would look at.
All right, Pete, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's easier said than done now. This is a different Indiana team than, we saw Penn State Penn State didn't end up being, who we thought they were, and Iowa, had an okay year, and Ohio State was who they were. But this is also at the same point, I think, a different, as Sammy said, they are playing great football right now. So I think it's very hard for me to take into account some of those things from earlier in the year. But the blueprint is the blueprint. Still have to go out there and execute against a team that you better believe Signetti and those guys are going to have some stuff up their sleeves. So.
Yeah, the blueprint. Don't forget the Michigan State game. Michigan State had a great game plan. They limited possessions. Now they gave up 3 touchdowns on 3 possessions in the first half, but IU only had the ball 3 times. And if you can't stop them, it doesn't really matter. But they came into that game, moved the ball well on the ground, got those third down pickups. And I know Michigan State stunk, but they probably had the best game plan. They just couldn't execute it against IU.
No, I agree. I said, listen, I'm going 27-23 Canes. I think Miami makes enough plays late, as great as IU is. We don't turn the ball over, stay ahead of the sticks, get to Mendoza with 4, and let's see what our defense can do when the game's on the line. And Mendoza, we know how good he is when the game's on the line. That guy, when those 3 games you mentioned, they are very good. Gentlemen, I'll let you out with this. Sammy, what's the best way for your listeners to connect with you or follow your work, and the same for you, Pete? And what final thoughts you want to leave our audience with?
Yeah, you can follow us at HoosierHuddle.com. We have forums on there. That's probably the easiest way to interact with us. You can follow us on Twitter as well, at Hoosier_Huddle. We're active on there, but it's not always me. I have other guys who help me run that account as well. So those are our 2 main avenues. We're on YouTube too. But yeah, HoosierHuddle.com. Head to the forums and you can interact with us. And then final thoughts is, man, it's the last game of the year. So enjoy it. I hope everybody enjoys it. And I just hope it's a good game and it's not decided by a stupid penalty or some nonsense that has kind of taken the fun out of college football recently.
Yeah, Pete, Pete. Let our audience know.
Yeah, at CanesInsight, we have our daily show every morning pretty much at 9 a.m., and we have a ton of content. We had Josh Pate on yesterday. We posted that video. We've had a bunch of great content, and yeah, man, just excited for this. Danny, thank you once again for having us on, and hope to see you out there, Danny.
I will see you. You will see me with these shoes Monday night.
I'm telling you, Sammy, I don't know if you know the story behind those shoes, man. You guys might be in trouble. Those shoes are
since the 90s. The 1990s. I first wore that against Pitt, actually.
There you go. Danny, thank you again.
Gentlemen,
man.
and also thank you so much for coming on. Greatly appreciate it. Hopefully I'll see you guys Monday night in Miami. Pete, I probably hope I see you there. Sam, I don't know Sam, are you going Monday night?
I fly down tomorrow to Palm Beach, and then we'll be down in Miami Sunday night, Monday night to do some media stuff.
All right. So, yeah, listen, enjoy. And, yes, I will be in the building Monday night. Take care. God bless you all. And talk to you soon.
Yep. Safe travels, Danny.
Thank you. Hold on, gentlemen. Let's